Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is in the process of picking a successor for retiring Republican Senator Johnny Isakson, and he's asking anyone in his state to apply online. Governor Kemp is asking those interested to simply follow the 3 rules to be a senator outlined in the Constitution: be 30 years old, a U.S. citizen, and have lived in Georgia for at least 9 years. Applicants can sign up on the Georgia governor's website. Greg Bluestein explored Kemp's move in an article for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, comparing the move to a reality TV contest. And Greg joins me now from Atlanta. He's a political reporter with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Greg, thank you so much for being with us. So let's talk about this approach. Is this just a political stunt, or is there any sort of merit to it?
Well over 100 applicants, which is a sign of the amazing interest for this U.S. Senate seat, which is actually not a surprise. Look, there's 2 different things the Kemp administration is looking to accomplish with this. One is, there's a small galaxy, a small pool of contenders that they're looking at from the very get-go, and that's not likely to change. There's going to be a handful of candidates they're going to seriously vet. But there's always a chance that someone else comes from out of the blue that they haven't thought about at all, that steps forward, and they add to that list of that very small list of people who they're going to seriously consider. But the other thing is, it forces contenders who might be toying with the idea, it forces them to make their intentions known, because we can file open records requests for everyone who applies, so we'll know a day after each person who's applied. So if you've kind of flirted with the idea but you're not serious about it, then you're not going to apply. But if you're serious about it, you've got to kind of put your money where your mouth is, get off the sidelines and apply, and that gives his team a little bit of an advantage.
So the person that Kemp picks will have to run for re-election in a 2020 special election. Both of Georgia's Senate seats will be up for grabs. What are Democrats doing to win one or both of those seats?
Opportunity for Georgia Democrats who are hoping to erase the Republican advantage in the U.S. Senate and also win the first statewide seat in about 2 decades in Georgia. You've already have 4 Democrats running against David Perdue, who is already up for re-election next year. But there is about a dozen or so other Democrats considering whether or not to run for the Isakson seat. That's going to be a tougher gamble. They don't know who their Republican opponent's going to be. And as you mentioned, you have to run in 2020, in 2022 as well for a full 6-year term. So you're looking at least 2 elections, maybe 3 if there's a runoff in the next 3 years.
So one of the contenders running for Senator David Perdue's seat is Democrat Jon Ossoff. He lost a congressional race in 2017. Let's listen to what he had to say after conceding the election.
We showed them what courage and kindness and humility are capable of. We showed them that we can still build coalitions of people who may not see eye to eye on everything, but rather than demonizing each other, we find common ground to move forward. This is not the outcome any of us were hoping for. But this is the beginning of something much bigger than us.
All right, so that was June of 2017. It seems like so long ago. Remind us about that race, Greg, and what Ossoff's popularity is like in Georgia today.
Election for a Republican-held congressional district up in North Atlanta suburbs that was held by the Republicans for more than 2 decades. It was the same seat that Newt Gingrich and Johnny Isakson and Tom Price once held. This was a Democrat who came from literally out of nowhere. I mean, no one in Georgia political circles had ever heard of Jon Ossoff, and raised $30 million, about $30 million, on a platform that he called the Make Trump Furious campaign. He was benefited by the fact that it was one of the only races going on at the time because it was a special election. So the national attention focused on this race. But he still has that laundry list of political donors that he can go back to in this campaign. Once you raise $30 million, you have a lengthy list, and it was only 2 years ago. So most of the names are still active. These donors are still active. So already he comes in with a very formidable fundraising advantage over the other 3 Democrats in the contest.
So former Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams says she will not run for Senate in 2020, but she has stayed active in politics since losing her race to Governor Kemp. What role is she playing in helping Democrats secure a Georgia Senate seat?
announced she's expanding her voting rights initiative nationwide to about 20 states across the country, including Georgia, of course. She's going to probably stay active behind the scenes, though, as well. She said she's not going to endorse any of the candidates in either of the Senate races quite yet, but she also hasn't ruled that out, and that's really important because she's the state's most prominent Democrat, and if she decides to play king or queen maker, she could really influence the outcome of either of these Senate races or both the Senate races. And all eyes are on the Isakson race because the Purdue race, there's already 4 candidates, but the Isakson, there is no one yet. And Democrats really hope to get behind one really solid candidate who might have a chance of winning outright in November.
Interesting dynamics there in Georgia. Greg Bluestein. Greg, always great to see you. Thank you very much.